Okay, so we're talking a little bit about intermodal transportation. Everybody loves it. I'm sure you guys are pretty jazzed up about it. I know I'm pretty jazzed up about it. Intermodal transportation seems like the best thing since sliced bread, practically. Well, let me just tell you, it in some cases is. Okay, um, moving things via container saves a lot of money to somebody trying to bring something over from another country or even just from the other side of the country here in the United States. You're able to take advantage of moving things on the rail as opposed to utilizing America's highways. I mean, it only takes a little bit of time out on the open road to see how many trucks at times there can be. If you ever get the desire to go to Cincinnati at 7:30 in the morning, you'll see traffic is backed up about 5-6 miles, and it's pretty much at a standstill for quite a bit. And then there's construction, there's all sorts of stuff like that. But one of the things that perhaps drivers hate the most in our four-wheel vehicles is when we see these 18-wheel vehicles out on the roads. We just think that they are there doing nothing but slowing our progress down. A lot of times they are. I mean, I'll give you that. But I will say that intermodal transportation definitely allows an opportunity to make up speed at times. Okay. Again, I think I've mentioned that you've got to have the right product that you're putting onto the rail. Okay. If you are in dire need of something, probably not the way to go. Okay, if your business is going to shut down, if you need something on the rail and it gets delayed, well, that's probably not the best call to throw that type of freight onto a rail. However, kind of what I mentioned in the last video I had, the right type of freight can make a decision about putting something onto the rail in some sort of a container definitely a good way to go. Okay, if you've got a lot of things going through a supply network and you've got a constant flow, you're probably not going to be impacted that much by a day's worth of delay. But if you are living and dying on shipments coming into your place of business every single day, you don't want to risk a day's worth of delay. You don't get that type of delay oftentimes when you're dealing with truckload carriers that are out on the roads. Okay. I mean, yeah, there might be traffic, but ultimately that truck driver, he is going to get through. I mean, if the truck driver really wants to make time, he'll drive at night when there's no one else on the road and you can whiz through a city like Cincinnati with no issues whatsoever. So, you just have to have the right freight to put on the rail, to put inside of a container. And sometimes it makes sense to actually put freight into a container if you are just on the other side of the country and you want to throw it on the rail. Okay, and that's what we're going to be talking about right now. Okay, because we're going to be talking about not only containers going on the rail, but a little bit of a new twist. So, the attractiveness of rail movement to shippers is you can avoid traffic tie ups. Okay, you can also get it done a lot cheaper than having one of these 53-foot trailers. You can move a heck of a lot more freight, a lot more efficiently, a lot more cost effectively when you throw it onto a train. So let's take a look at that a little bit more. Scroll down a bit here, and here, this is what we've got here. So I just got done telling you that the standard size for a steel container was 40 feet. Okay, now here's what it looks like getting dragged around on a chassis. And the truck driver, he's pretty happy. He's got his trailer here. It's a 40-foot long trailer. All is good. Okay? It's all good. It's come right off of a a ship, maybe in the port of Seattle, and it's going to somewhere in beautiful Oregon or something like that. Okay? But it is ready to roll once you slap it on top of one of these chassis, and all of a sudden it becomes an 18-wheel truck. Okay, so you got a 40-foot length container. Okay. Now you're thinking to yourself, well, it's probably not as good as a 53-foot truck. You get a 53-foot truck. Gosh, I got 13 more feet of stuff that I can throw on. Okay. Now 53-foot trucks, that is something that is used domestically. Domestically. Okay. So let's take a look here. Okay. It's okay. Okay. This right here, the 53-foot trailer, now that's better. Okay. That's better. Okay. You got 13 more feet in this. It's got my favorite trucking company there, Schneider National. It's orange. It's all good for Mr. Skeen. But I can't help saying to myself, doggone it, if I just had 13 more feet in a container, I could take advantage of the rail. Huh. Ah, man, somebody needs to invent that. Oh, wait a second. Somebody did invent that. Okay. 53-foot trailers are an invention of us here in the United States. When you got the Europeans driving fuel efficient, smaller vehicles, you've got fuel efficient vehicles being driven in many parts of the world. Well, we've got all sorts of space here in the United States, and doggone it, we go big here in the United States. We go 53-foot trailers. They don't drive 53-foot trailers anywhere else in the world other than Canada and Mexico. And that's because it's right next door to the United States. They probably don't want them on their roads either, but because they're close to the United States, they're stuck with them. Okay? So, why have we decided to do this? We've got open roads. We've got open space. Okay. We are a larger country than most other places in the world. And because of that, we like to move more freight whenever possible. In fact, in some parts of the United States, you can, believe it or not, hook two 53-foot trailers together and have them towed by one truck. It is a scary sight to see. I mean, imagine passing basically a cab and 106 feet of trailer. Okay, it happens, and it happens out west all the time. Places where the roads are wide open and the speed limits are a lot higher than 70 miles per hour. Okay, that goes on out west. Okay, Mr. Skeen can drive 80 miles per hour in the great state of Nebraska. Okay, you can't do that out here in Ohio and Kentucky. If you're lucky, you might get it up to 70 miles an hour. Out there on the open road in Nebraska, you can push it up to 80. Okay, so let's take a look at what somebody thought of. Okay, everything is bigger in the United States. 40-foot is good enough for most countries in the world, but we made the 53-foot trailer. So why not just apply that to containers in the United States? Well, somebody did in the 1980s, and this is what you get. Okay, all of a sudden, if you take a look here, see where I put this little graphic here, 40 feet in length. If you look ever so closely right here, this is a 40-foot container. Right here, that's a 40-foot container that, guess what? Somebody has welded on 6.5 feet on both ends. And guess what? Behold, the 53-foot container. Now, this is totally useless to you as a person outside of the United States. Okay, I'm not going to send this thing that you're looking at right now anywhere other than in the United States. But what it does do is it allows me to take advantage of the ability to drag around 53-foot trailers here in the United States. But at the same time, it allows me, because it's in container form now, to throw this onto a rail car. Hey, okay. So, same sorts of ways that we were talking about things being bolted down and making them very secure. Here, there is a point where you are able to latch it down. Here's another point. You've got them on all four corners. This thing is not going anywhere once it is sitting on top of these steel stakes. Okay, it's not coming off unless the trailer is flipping over. Then it might, but even then, there's a very good chance it will still hold. Now, your trailer would still be pretty much exploded, but doggone it, it's still probably going to remain attached to the chassis. Okay, so you've got a 53-foot container. What are we going to do with it? Let's take a look, okay? Throw it on a chassis and doggone it, this is what you get right here, okay? You've got 53 feet, no wasted space. You don't have to feel like the truck driver pulling around the short trailer. You've got 53 feet, and you are pulling a whole lot of freight, the same amount of freight that you would a truckload carrier. Okay, so imagine yourself as a shipper, and you can say, I'll talk to this railroad company. I'll talk to the Union Pacific, or I'll talk to Burlington Northern. I'll talk to Santa Fe. Okay, I'll talk to any of these railroad companies, and I just think I'm going to get a deal. They tell me it's really cheap. I'm going for it. Okay, I don't need this stuff super critical. I'm going to go for it. Okay, and what this allows you to do is then let's scroll down a bit further. Ha ha ha. Look at this. You throw it onto a train car just like this. Down below, you've got a 40-foot container that has probably come right off of a ship somewhere along the line. And then up above, you have the ever exciting Schneider National container. 40 foot here, a dead on match down below. And then lo and behold, someone has slapped on a bonus 6.5 feet on the front, bonus 6.5 feet on the back. You got 53 foot. Okay, it's going on the exact type of train car that you would get a 40-foot container on right here. So this right here is a great example of what the gains are. Okay, again, however, this is domestic. Okay, this came in from China. Throw it on a rail, it gets to where it needs to go, boom, you're in business. This has been loaded somewhere in the United States, and some shipper is taking advantage of the cheaper cost to be on the rails. Okay, so how do these things get loaded? Exactly the same way that a container gets loaded. Okay, if you take a look right here, the lift points are exactly the same. They're not touching anything here that got welded on by someone here in the United States. No, they're grabbing these portions right here. Okay, pretty much what happens with a lot of these containers is they start their lives out as a 40-foot container. They come over from China, where most all of these 40-foot containers are made. And then somebody here is welding on the nose and the tails of the trailers. Okay. And then all of a sudden, you've got a 53-foot shipping container. You lift it up at the exact same point that they would have a 40-foot container. You're not touching anything back here or back here that is going to be somewhat less secure. Okay, so this is a structurally sound container. It's made of steel. These parts up here are not quite as strong, so they don't even bother lifting up there. They're lifting the exact same way. If you take a look at any time that you pass a truck by one of these larger carriers, you are going to see something that says lift point here. Okay, or in this case, I think this one says top lift only. Okay, but you'll see something mentioned about lift points, and these are the reinforced areas that allow these things to get picked up and not fall apart when a big crane like this picks them up. Okay, so throw them onto a rail car, you are off to the races and you are moving freight. Okay, so let's take a look. But are we done as far as variations? No, we are not. Let's turn on the lights for Mr. Skeen. Hello, lights. There we go. Okay, so so you are throwing this on the rails, and let's take a look at something else. Okay, but then let's just say somebody decided to take it a little bit farther. Yeah, it's easy to move containers, but I'll tell you what, somebody here was using their brain. Somebody here was using their brain, and it's easy to move things on and off a rail car like this, but you got to have one of these things, and one of these things is not cheap. Okay, one of these things can get backed up because they're so expensive. There might be a whole line of rail cars waiting or containers to getting offloaded up here. But guess what? You want to avoid that line. Okay, you're thinking big picture here. Okay, they took it farther. What did they do? Dun, 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 dun. Look at this picture right here. Easy on, easy off, no cranes, no heavy forklift needed, with something called the intermodal spine. The intermodal spine. The intermodal spine, you say? Why? Well, the intermodal spine, here it is. It is literally something that it's got enough room for the legs of the trailer to sit right here. There is something that I haven't even talked to you about. Someday we're going to take a look at one of these things here because it is interesting to actually look at some of this stuff. You'll also want to know you don't want to go anywhere down there. There's all sorts of grease down there. Stay away from there. Okay. But here you have an intermodal spine rail car. Okay. And what it does is it allows you, the rail company, to move these things off and on super fast. Okay. And again, super fast is good if you're trying to market your services to a company that's a little reluctant about throwing freight onto the rails. Okay. And guess what? This is going to help your cause because you're not going to be backed up waiting for the crane to lift it up and set it down on top of a chassis. This thing, it's not on a chassis. Okay. It's already attached. Okay. I mean, heck, you could take any truckload trailer that's 53 foot and you could throw it onto a train just like that. And that's what happens more and more today. Okay. Communication, planning, logistics. I mean, this is high skilled logistics here. People crunching numbers, people using computers to tear apart different routes, tear apart different ways to transport stuff, all in an effort to make it cheaper. And who are they making it cheaper for? Yeah, the people sending freight around the country. But guess why they do it? They do it for you, they do it for me. Why? Because we want stuff. The more stuff, the better. Okay. And that can happen. More stuff, the better, but cheaper. Okay. That's what it comes down to. Okay. So, this intermodal spine is a pretty good deal for companies to be able to do this. Okay, there's no backups at rail yards waiting again for these cranes, waiting for some sort of a big forklift. Okay, and you can pretty much just park this thing right here, and guess what? You can actually imagine this being a bit longer. You can actually drive, you can throw it into reverse a truck and it can drive across these things, hook up to something like this, and lo and behold, guess what? It's driving fast, driving quickly, okay? Off the rails very quickly. No chassis, no forklift, no nothing, no crane. Cranes, very expensive, very dangerous, okay? So let's take a look here. Heck, what else can you throw on there? Heck, you can throw on a 53-foot refrigerated truck. You can throw any kind of 53-foot truck on one of these intermodal spines. Okay, it's got like a little brace right here, which pretty much is using the. I mean, basically, it is holding the front up where the truck cab generally would be. Okay, so the intermodal spine, an amazing innovation. Okay, I looked up the patent. Somebody has this particular car, the name intermodal spine patented. You can't do anything similar like this. If you want to do something like this, you got to buy it from the guy that invented it and the companies that pay that guy. Okay, very smart man that figured this out here. Okay. So you can throw refrigerated trucks on, you throw anything that you want on there. So with the right freight, okay, with the right freight, there's a lot of environmental talk that goes on. Okay, everybody likes to talk about environmental stuff. Okay, you want to be green, it's great. But guess what? Green is also about saving money. Okay, reusing, reducing, recycling. Okay, it all is green, but it saves you money. Let's read through this here. Reducing freight transportation costs with intermodal service. Intermodal transportation offers an opportunity to lower shipping costs while cutting carbon emissions. You can feel good now about shipping things across the United States. You're cutting emissions. Great. You love it. It's awesome. Okay, transporting a medium to long distance load via intermodal costs 15 to 40% less than moving the same load by truck. This right here, this is actually the kicker that gets the company's attention. Yeah, they like to be able to say they are cutting carbon emissions, but this right here that I highlighted, that's what it's all about. Okay, it's making money, it's saving money, and it's all because you and I want stuff cheap. And stuff like this allows them to move lots of stuff cheaply. Okay, studies show that shipping by rail is 3 to 4 times more fuel efficient and therefore more environmentally friendly than shipping over the road with truckload carriers. Okay, imagine being able to pluck large 53-foot trailers off of the road and being able to slap them on the rails. Okay, that is what is happening more and more. We've got a video in the class for the day that you're going to be watching this, but I will say that the video, it's a good video. I mean, it's just talking to two guys that work for a trucking company, but it's good stuff. Okay, or at least in Mr. Skeen's mind it is. So let's talk about intermodal by the numbers. This is actually a company that is based out of Nebraska that made this graphic. Mr. Skeen did not. He just plagiarizes stuff. But intermodal by the numbers. Generally, freight moving 500 miles or more is a good fit for intermodal conversion. Okay, conversion, instead of sticking it into just a regular trailer, you put it into a trailer that can go onto the rails. Now, that's not even talking about an intermodal spine one. What they're talking about here is plucking it off of a chassis, slapping it onto the rails. Okay. That intermodal spine thing, that's a different game altogether. You can see that for every single one of those intermodal spines on the same rail car or the same size rail car, you can stick 2 intermodal containers that can be, that unfortunately have to then be waiting for a chassis and a crane and a forklift to get it off. Okay. But again, it's got to be the right product. You as a shipper need to know what makes sense. 96% of shippers miss out on opportunities to optimize their full truckload freight by converting to intermodal. It's not something that a lot of customers are comfortable with doing. So more and more freight on the rail using various types of intermodal movement is happening more and more, and it is growing exponentially. Okay, when choosing intermodal over highway transportation, shippers can reduce costs, again, 10 to 40%. That's big money, but it's got to be the right product that you're throwing on the rails. Okay, this is a staggering number right here, and it says it. I can't verify it. This might be advertising. I don't know, but I know that we're talking lots and lots of freight gets moved. So 280 million is the number of truckloads it would take to move the same amount of freight as one intermodal train. Now, when they say one intermodal train, okay, we're talking about the types of trains that you see oftentimes moving through the American West, okay, for the same reason that all these air parcel companies stick their hubs in places in the Cincinnati area. I mean, out west, you see trains that are massive, okay? If you get stuck at a crossing, you are going to be waiting a long time. If you guys think that getting stuck behind a train in Kentucky is bad, wait if you were out west, okay, where they have massive trains. Okay, so 280 million is the number of truckloads it would take to move the same amount. These intermodal trains, they are big, and they are oftentimes stacked 3, sometimes even 4 containers high, 53-foot containers high. 280 million, that doesn't seem right, but it's a lot. Okay. 450, the number of miles a train can move 1 ton of freight on a single gallon of diesel fuel. Okay. Now that right there is where the money savings happens. Okay. That's why rail companies can offer such cheap prices. They can move stuff super far on very limited amounts of fuel. Okay. And the reason is that once those trains get rolling, they just roll themselves. Okay. You get them up to speed, and the fuel savings is massive. Okay. But all in all, back to the enviro friendly part of it, 75% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions when moving freight by rail instead of truck. Okay. So, lots of good stuff here, but we'll talk more about it. And I will say that that is it. That is all. Mr. Skeen is going to be leaving. It is 6 p.m. right now, and I am out of here.